over to the business demos, and Craig Swensrud,
you got it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Is going to show us some stuff that Salesforce is doing, integrating some of the messages that are happening on the social sphere with CRM.
Sounds good. Thanks. Craig Swensrud is my name. This is Dan. We're with Salesforce.com. And Salesforce is in this space called cloud computing for the enterprise. We squarely focus on business applications. And so we're leveraging basically the real-time web to make the next generation of business applications. And so while we have a whole host of business applications and a platform that we provide, the fastest growing area of our business is in the area of customer service. And specifically, it's an application that we're going to show you today called the Service Cloud. And fundamentally, this diagram that you see on the screen is the problem that companies of all sizes are looking to solve, where they spent over the last 15 years billions and billions of dollars investing in this thing called the contact center, which is telephone and web self-service. And what happened to their customers, what happened to all of us, is that we don't really like these days to pick up the telephone and go through the voice maze and finally make our way to somebody who actually doesn't know the answer. And so what do is we go to the web, we go to the cloud, and we go to social communities and discussion forums, and we tweet, and we ask our friends questions on Facebook, and that's how we get connected with the answer. So what are businesses to do? They've dumped all this money in the contact center, but their customers are moving into this entirely new social paradigm. And so that's really what we're trying to solve for these companies, is help them expand their contact center investments and get there. So that's what we'll show you right now. We'll log into the application that we refer to as the Service Cloud, and essentially from a dashboard, inside of a company, they can see all of their customer interaction channels through one place. So the traditional things like phone, email, and chat, and then all the new social web channels that they would use, like Twitter, Facebook, or Google Search, or social communities, etc. And so we'll show you an example today of a conversation that this particular telco company has tapped into on Facebook. So if we drill into Facebook and then drill into a recent conversation, inside of Salesforce, you can see that this is a conversation that's happening on the web right now. And so a company can monitor this. In this case, this is an example of a customer who's having a problem getting his iPhone that he bought from a telco company working together with his Bluetooth headset. And so the source of this question was Facebook. So, for example, if we take a look at the Facebook profile of this gentleman named Alex, from Alex's homepage, what we'll be able to see when we log in here, from Alex's homepage is we can essentially see a Q&A application. It's essentially a Facebook application that businesses are now building on top of platforms like the one that Salesforce.com offers, and then customers can essentially ask questions and get responses from the community at large. So Alex, instead of picking up the telephone and calling his telco provider, which would be absolutely crazy in today's world, he posted this question on Facebook, and there you see in the middle of the screen there's a user named Amy that said, oh yeah, go into advanced settings and Bluetooth option, flip it on and off, then power off and power on, and that should work. And those are the types of questions that people are getting answered through social communities with their friends and people they don't even know. But from this application, of course, if you interact with the application on Facebook, you can vote the answer as correct. You could reply back and have this conversation. All that information is then stored back in the business, and this is how the business becomes connected into the social community. And so if you flip on over to the Salesforce screen, the stuff that Dan just typed in that screen and also the voted answer as correct was just saved into the application and the knowledge base of the customer service organization at this telco company. So this is huge now because these companies, instead of being separated from this customer conversation, they're tied into it. Now, another example that we're going to show you here with Twitter in just a second is that the power of the company, they now have the ability to take this knowledge that they harness from the social community and pass it out to all the other channels they use to service their customers. So let's say there's another user that has the exact same problem, and instead of picking up the telephone or going to Facebook or going to Google or going to the self-service website, just tweets. And so Dan Benson says at the bottom of the screen there, for the life of me, can't get this headset working. And of course, as you all know, there's people that Dan knows and people that Dan doesn't know that take part in that conversation. And so what's a company going to do with this now? And so how do companies participate in this new paradigm? So we're releasing a product next month that we've been beta testing with a bunch of companies called Salesforce CRM for Twitter, which brings Twitter inside of the Service Cloud application that I just showed you. So what it would look like for a company is that inside of their Salesforce application, they would be able to monitor the conversations that are happening on Twitter. So for example, let's say that you've probably heard of Frank Eliason at Comcast that essentially monitors Comcast service outages on Twitter. This is the same type of thing, but done on widespread use for companies. So companies can then monitor issues like problems with the X34 headset. And so right from within that screen, of course, you see the entire Twitter conversation, but then a company can then monitor this and import it into Salesforce. And then from within that, the company can do a couple things that are really key. Of course, they can just tweet back out to Dan, which is what a lot of companies want to do, is just say, hey, we're aware of this issue. We just want to let you guys know that we're working on this issue. But the really powerful thing for a lot of companies is to integrate all these channels together such that when there's a customer service issue on Twitter, they can bring it into their knowledge base and then push it out through their call center agents. Or if they source the answer on Facebook, like we just saw, they can bring it into their knowledge base and they can push it out through the Twitter channel. And so what Dan's doing right now on the screen is he's saying, you know what, we actually have the answer for this. Let's extract it from our knowledge base and tweet it. And you can see that right here inside of the Salesforce screen. But then, of course, also in real time, that information gets pushed out to the Twitter community as well. So Dan Benson, who originally had the issue on Twitter, or Trisley, who was following Dan, or anybody who was following Orange Support, in this case the telco company, can now not only see that the company is working on this, but they can see the customer service issue resolution with the bit.ly URL in this case that actually takes them to the resolution. So this is really kind of the next generation of customer service, what companies are looking for, and they're looking to do this using these new services like Twitter and Salesforce.com and Facebook, and they want to know how to connect with their customers, and this is really the next generation for them to do that.
Okay, terrific.
So, thanks.
Thank you so much.